Operation Wonder Weapon, Book 1, by A.R. Gallagher, Chapter 1. Mirror, Mirror. June 30th, 1940, Tannenberg, Germany. The Black Forest. The Black Forest smothered a complex of heavily guarded bunkers and above-ground wooden barracks in its embrace. The day's heat clung to the walls, turning the air heavy and close. For all the pride and pomp of the Third Reich, there was nothing austere here, just cold, functional military buildings. The dry air made the smell of pine, cigarette smoke, and diesel feel oppressive. Boots clapped in unison as the Führer strode through the steel door. As usual, their leader was energetic, and this time had an additional spring to his step.
Heil Hitler!
His men saluted in unison. Hitler smiled in spite of himself. Napoleon's tomb, Arc de Triomphe, and the Eiffel Tower, symbols of pride, legacy, and Western might. All his now. Martin Bormann opened the door to Hitler's office. The summer heat had lingered well into the evening, leaving the office a little too warm. The windows had been opened for fresh air, but the atmosphere was dry and still as the forest held its breath. Adolf's eyes strained against the dim lamps. Shadows pooled across the utilitarian office, broken only by the clutter on his oak desk. Maps, red telephones, Reich-stamped folders. On the back wall, Europe hung dissected by pins and strings, its front lines and invasions laid bare like arteries on a surgeon's chart. Heinrich Himmler, head of the Schutzstaffel, or the SS, and Hermann Göring of the Luftwaffe, the Air Force, rose from two stiff-backed chairs as he entered. They had been admiring their work and broke off to salute him. Hitler's black, beady eyes were drawn involuntarily to what they had been studying. A soldier had just finished polishing its glass surface and ornate frame and hurried away. The door closed behind him. The mirror defied the room's austerity. Obscenely large, its gilt frame writhing with serpents, turquoise plumes crowning its top, Celtic knots coiling down its sides. Fit for a queen. Göring smiled at Hitler's entranced reaction as he hypnotically approached the mirror.
We found it in a secret room in the castle. It was in surprisingly good shape.
Göring did not mention the other valuables he had kept for his own collection. Himmler wormed past Göring and the chairs eager for his part of the contribution. He extended a paper.
There was some difficulty, but with much research and testing, we have found the activation phrase.
Hitler tore his fixed gaze away from the silvery surface, seeming to return from a deep state, and took the note.
Well done,
he said as he read the note.
You will be rewarded accordingly, but for now I would like to continue with it alone.
Göring clicked his heels smartly and saluted and marched to the door, feeling satisfied. Himmler, however, was affronted.
My leader, with the sheer importance of our cultic research, I would be very appreciative if I could observe.
Nein!
Hitler snapped.
You will have plenty of time with it later.
Himmler pursed his lips, masking his irritation, saluted, and left. Once the door was closed, Adolf moved closer, daring to caress the gilt frame in reverence. He stood in awe of beholding the German legend face to face. Then he spoke the activation phrase.
Slave in the magic mirror. Come from the farthest space.
The silver pool remained placid and ordinary as ever as he stared at the sweaty and crazed face on the surface.
Through wind and darkness I summon thee.
A fly buzzed and thumped against the inside of the open window.
Speak! I would see thy face.
The glass exhaled heat in a sudden blast. Flames roared within, forcing him back a step. Then, just as quickly, the flames were extinguished, sending up languid smoke trails. A ghostly, eyeless face drifted into view, a mere disembodied mask with deep lines and a hollow stare regarded the startled tyrant.
What wouldst thou know, my leader?
An unimpassioned voice echoed from the formless chamber. Adolf stared in disbelief and fear at the specter. Then, collecting himself, he read the note again.
Mia, Mia, on the wall.
He paused to consider his desire.
Who is the most powerful of them all?
Without hesitation, the mirror replied,
3 rivals rise beyond thy wall, each more mighty than them all. The lion roars upon the shore, defiant still though bruised by war. The bear will wake from icy den, to bleed thy legions, beasts and men. The eagle sleeps across the sea, yet if it soars, will conquer thee.
The symbolic beasts, so often used in political propaganda, were clear as day.
9!
Hitler snapped, as if the mirror were just another subordinate.
My army is greatest. Russia my ally. The British crumble, losing their colonies by the year. The Americans? Mongrels, timid, self-indulgent, indecisive. The Axis grows stronger each day, and my enemies scatter before me.
He gestured passionately, and spittle landed on the mirror's surface, only to sizzle away. Unfazed, the mirror repeated its resonant and eerie warning. Then, in another burst of flame, the mirror returned to its silvery reflection, showing only the Führer, his face reddened and bunched in rage. He wiped his mouth on his sleeve and turned to regard the map on the wall. For all his labors, expansion, and manipulations, Britain, Russia, and America were still more formidable than his empire. In 3 days, he would summon his generals. His eyes settled on the wall map and the island of Great Britain. None would be greater than he. What followed the Führer's summons in the Black Forest was a war unlike any other in human history. Germany hurled the full weight of the Luftwaffe at Britain, certain the island would collapse under fire, yet the Lion held firm. Frustrated by their defiance, Hitler turned east in 1941 and shattered his pact with the Soviet Union, driving his armies into Russia with catastrophic overconfidence. The bear woke hard and hungry. Before winter's teeth had closed on German supply lines, Japan struck Pearl Harbor, dragging the eagle from its nest into open war. 4 days later, Hitler declared war on the United States himself, sealing the fate the mirror had spelled out in flame. What had begun as a continent's calamity expanded into a global reckoning. By 1943, the Axis front sagged under its own ambition. North Africa fell, U-boats bled out in the Atlantic, and Allied commanders turned their gaze to Europe's vulnerable flank. The plan was bold in scope and simple in aim. Crack open the Mediterranean by taking Sicily, the stepping stone to Italy, and the soft underbelly of the Reich. Yet in the shadows of Europe, the Reich was hunting for something they believed could change the war. Something that did not belong to this century. Sicily Landing. July 10th, 1943, Sicily, 3 years and a week later, in the wee hours. The landing craft tank, LCT, slammed into another wave, helmets rattling like kettles. Ray cursed, jerking at his laces. One had already worked loose again. The squad perked up immediately in the dim red light.
I got 2 spokes says he loses it before we hit sand.
A private grinned, holding up his camels.
Make it 3 luckies he keeps it till we're halfway up the beach.
Another chimed in, tossing a couple cigarettes into the helmet passed down the line.
Heck, I'll stake a whole Chesterfield he loses both before we even drop that ramp.
Larry said, scratching on his helmet liner with a stub of pencil. A loose bolt rattled across the deck as the LCT slammed another wave. Lieutenant Lawrence Morris Adams pinned it under his boot, scooped it up quick, and slipped it into a pocket like treasure. Private Ray Chambord gave them a sour look, tugging the knot tighter.
Laugh it up, jokers. I'm gonna swing dance my way up that beach, and I'll still have both boondockers when the shooting stops.
He pulled out a roll of the newly invented duct tape and began taping his boot to his leg. John, the oldest of the group at age 45, chuckled low, knocking on Ray's helmet.
If they stay on, I'll dance with you myself.
Someone lit a cigarette, took a drag, and frowned.
Tastes funny.
He passed it along.
Don't it taste funny to you?
The next soldier took a drag.
It's fine, man.
One of the drivers poking out of the hatch of an M4 Sherman suddenly vomited, splattering his dinner down the Iron Beast's side. Everyone nearby groaned as the acrid stench mixed with smoke and diesel fumes. A shell slapped the water dangerously close, drenching the bow. The men ducked with a roar of curses.
The ID saw us.
Captain John Zimmerman looked around at the young combat engineers with white knuckles. Even the British sappers were wide-eyed. He bowed his head, then lifted his voice, rolling from a resonant bass into a warm, steady baritone.
Behold a royal army, with banner, sword, and shield, is marching forth to conquer on life's great battlefield. Its ranks are filled with soldiers, united, bold, and strong, who follow their commander and sing their joyful song.
The jittery crew of 20 men took up the song, arms thrown over shoulders, swaying with the surging boat. One of the British sappers nudged Private Nick Lars, the sullen-looking soldier next to him.
Hey, mate, join in. It helps with the nerves.
The poor, unsuspecting sapper was suddenly accosted by the nearest American engineers.
No! He's not allowed!
He was taken aback.
Blimey, what did I say? Why not?
Nick's face pinched like the music was swelling within him, pressing at his ribs as if it wanted out. He shook his head.
I can't.
Sinatra here.
One soldier struggled, mouth opening and closing, but gave up.
What happens in Africa stays in Africa.
The sapper looked at poor Nick.
What trouble could singing have gotten you into?
I don't know how I did it,
Nick muttered. The LCT coxswain stuck his head down through a porthole.
Landfall in 15!
He barked. John cut off mid-lyric, squared his shoulders, and the warmth vanished from his face. His black brows drew low over his sharp blue eyes.
All right, soldiers.
His voice boomed stentorian, hollow-throated, cutting through storm and engine. The music and laughter died at once. Every head snapped toward him.
We hit sand in 15 minutes. Protocol. Lock it in. Nobody crowds the ramp. 5 yards apart. Keep your lanes clear. Engineers, wire and mines first. Mark the path for armor. If you get cut off, regroup at the dune line. Heads down, feet moving. Always moving.
He scanned their faces, young and tight with fear. Then he thundered,
For the love of country, remember your training and hold your lanes. You don't, you die. And worse, you take the man beside you with you. Not today, not here, not one of you.
The muscles bulged from his jaw, but his eyes lingered on each man with the tenderness of a father counting his sons. A head poked through the hatch again, oilskin dripping.
2 minutes!
The coxswain barked. The deck lurched hard. Men grabbed straps in one another to keep upright. Larry rattled like a toolbox. Ray glanced repeatedly at his laces and rechecked every strap on his gear. Nick hummed under his breath, like a starving man sneaking crumbs of the feast he'd just pushed away. John planted his boots wide against the rocking deck, steady and looming as the Sherman hulking behind them.
On the ramp!
He bellowed. The soldiers, extensions to his will, surged forward.
First squad, wire in mines. Second squad, cover fire. Third squad, unchain the tanks. Armor follows on my mark. Keep your intervals tight, your heads low. When that ramp drops, you move fast, no hesitation.
The coxswain's shout cut across him.
30 seconds!
The men tensed, white-knuckled on rifles, knapsacks biting into their shoulders. Someone crossed himself. Someone else muttered a joke that went unanswered. The surf roared closer, and above it all, John's voice hammered them like a war drum.
Remember, your brothers on either side depend on you. You stand, we all stand. You fall, we all fall. Hold the line, hold your courage, do your duty, and we will live.
The LCT slammed bottom. The ramp chains clattered. Every chest tightened.
Ramp in 3, 2, 1, drop.
The ramp gave a great metallic moan and slammed down, and water and bullets rushed in from the darkness of the storm.
Go, go, go!
John bellowed, his voice splitting the storm. The first wave of men plunged into the surf, helmets low, rifles high. Salt spray stung their eyes. Sand and tracers hissed around them. Ray hit the water running. His eyes kept flicking down, half expecting disaster, but the tape held. With a grunt, he threw his weight into the long Bangalore torpedo, dragging it toward the wire.
Water, clear the wire!
John roared as he gave cover fire. Larry was already there, fumbling with the fuse. The charge stuck on a coil of rusted iron. Tracers sparked overhead, illuminating the curtains of rain.
Jam's no good,
Larry muttered, too calm for the chaos. He yanked a coil of copper from his kit, teeth clenching it, and lashed it into the firing cap like he was fixing a radio instead of a bomb. He slapped Ray's arm.
Set!
Ray lit the fuse. They threw themselves flat, sand filling their mouths, and the Bangalore tore the wire open with a crack that shook their ribs. His boots squelched loose in the mud, but it stayed on.
Pass open, move it!
Nick laid into his rifle, steady and surgical. Every shot was in rhythm, sharp and precise.
Down left window,
he barked, and the squad followed his aim. The Germans inside ducked from their bullets. John moved slower than the young men, but he was unstoppable, dragging a wounded British sapper out of the surf with one arm and firing his rifle with the other. His voice carried above the maelstrom.
Stay 5 yards, keep your lanes, armor needs that road.
Another torpedo jammed, fizzled useless. Larry was on it before anyone else could curse.
Cover me,
he snapped. Sparks flew as he wrenched the fuse out with bare hands. He twisted wire, teeth bared, and slapped it together. The charge detonated seconds later, blasting another gap. Ray and Nick surged through first, rifles blazing, cutting down defenders at the sand berm. John followed, dragging his men like a tide with him. By the time they reached the dune line, the beach behind them was smoking chaos. But the path was marked, clear for armor. A Sherman ground its way up through their gap, tracks clattering, guns booming. Infantry poured after it. A group of 15 engineers dropped into the sand, chests heaving, sweat stinging their eyes. A dead quiet hung for a beat, broken only by the rumble of tanks and the crackle of flames. John tipped back his helmet, blue eyes fierce beneath soot and sand. His voice came hoarse but steady.
You did it! Every dang one of you! Remember this. This is how we survive.
He cocked his head, almost a smile tugging.
Got your boots still?
Ray's head dropped, and he lifted a wet, sandy, sock-clad foot.
When?
Nick asked.
Sometime after the second line of wire.
Larry groaned.
I lost good on that one.
He never loses both boots, just one.
John corrected. John reached around and tugged the missing boot free from where he'd jammed it into his belt after tripping on it. Duct tape hung from it like mummy wrappings.
Aw, thanks.
Ray brightened, sliding it back on.
The prodigal boot returns,
someone muttered, and the men actually laughed. The first hours blurred into unrelenting chaos, bursts of MG-42 fire, wire cutting, tank treads snarled in sand, men shouting through smoke. They pushed, ducked, dragged, detonated until the dunes behind them were finally theirs and the beachhead held firm. By the time the sun dropped, they'd clawed Sicily out from under the Italians and Germans. The storm had long since abated. They dug into shallow foxholes at the dune line, and the engineers finally let themselves breathe. Their rifles leaned within reach, helmets tipped back, cigarettes glowing in the dark like watchfires. Silence fell between them, not the silence of fear, but of men too wrung out to speak. Meet the squad. The infantry were engaged with the enemy, tanks and soldiers driving German invaders back. The engineers found a dune for cover to catch their breath as the beachhead was secured. John pulled out his leather billfold and studied the worn family portrait inside. His great shoulders hunched forward, muscled, hairy forearms resting across his knees. His wide jaw set beneath kind eyes, now free of his war scowl. Fresh stubble shadowed his cheeks. After months of fighting in Africa, his face had become sallow. One of the British sappers exhaled a cloud of smoke that the sea wind whisked away.
That your girl? Wife?
Wife and the whole brood.
John passed him the photo. The young man blinked, eyebrows shooting up.
Blimey, how many's that?
8.
Impressive.
The sapper leaned closer, squinting at the eldest in the back row, tall, serious, dressed in a navy jumper.
That one's in uniform.
John's jaw shifted, pride and worry flickering.
My boy. He's somewhere out in the Pacific, 3 years now.
The sapper's finger moved to the girl beside him, chin up, hair tied back, coveralls rolled at the sleeve.
And her?
My daughter, 17. She's at the Curtis Wright plant in Columbus, riveting wings on planes.
His mouth twitched into a proud half-smile.
She says she can drive a rivet straighter than any foreman.
Like father, like son, and daughter.
The sapper whistled low, handing it back. John folded the billfold with care, thumb brushing the cracked leather.
God grant them both an easier war than mine.
The sapper offered John his cigarette, and John shook his head. He didn't drink or smoke. Nick lay flat on the damp ground, staring up through tattered clouds, cigarette dangling from his lips. He didn't seem to care how soaked his uniform was. His thoughts were far away, back in Chicago with Karen. She wasn't flashy, just a refined, natural beauty, the kind that made him wonder how she'd ever picked him. His ginger hair fluttered in the wind. It liked to stick straight up whenever it wasn't plastered down with pomade. Freckles ran thick across his face, making his blue eyes seem even brighter. Long-limbed and wiry, he didn't look the type, but he was as sturdy as they came, and a crack shot to boot. He'd always had an incredible singing voice. He had performed in school and in community gatherings. But after deploying in Africa, he was too afraid of what he'd done. So now he stuck cigarettes in his mouth. Larry kept his hands busy. He was usually too preoccupied to smoke. Instead, he thumbed through a small sketchbook filled with technical doodles, little inventions he hoped might one day help the cause. His long, slender fingers worried at his lip as he studied a half-finished drawing, then scratched in a few notes and tweaks. The faint lilt of Louisiana still clung to his muttered words, softening the sharp angles of his otherwise methodical mind. Some of the men teased him as Bayou Boy, but when it came to fixing anything mechanical, they knew to step back and let him work. His cheeks, once round with lingering baby fat, had sharpened into a stronger jaw and cheekbones over the past year, giving him the look of a man still growing into himself. Brown hair fell across his brow, matching the unwavering brown eyes fixed on the page. Ray sat close to John with his arms folded, eyes half shut, as if drifting toward a nap. His blonde hair stuck damp to his brow, sweat cutting through the grime. He was wiry and well-tanned from summers of hard outdoor work back in New England, doing odd jobs for neighbors, hauling wood, fixing stone walls, mending fences. Ray often provided comedic relief when they needed it most. In a war as dark as this, he could always find something to lighten the mood. However, ever since Africa, the mystery of his forever loose boot had become an unrelenting frustration. After their brief reprieve, it was time to move again. Their enemies were not resting, so neither could they. They collected themselves and moved on to their next task, leaving behind ration wrappers and cigarette butts in the sand. Naples Museum. Naples Museum, late September. The Archaeological Museum of Naples did not welcome visitors so much as contain them. Its walls rose sheer and unbroken, gray stone trim, cutting dark against the vivid pinkish-red brick. Tall windows lined the facade in strict ranks, each crowned with stone pediments that stared down with cold superiority. A black Mercedes-Benz 770 pulled up to the entrance. An SS officer stepped out. He strode inside, past the soaring vaulted hall of statues and painted ceilings, where soldiers were already crating treasures in haste. Priceless marbles, mosaics, even fresco fragments disappeared into boxes with little more than rags or straw for padding. He regarded their clumsiness with contempt. Half of this would be lost before it reached Berlin. He found his superior in the archives, aides rummaging through ledgers and trays, while a tall man leaned over a massive register. The officer waited until the man finished scribbling in pencil before he spoke.
Sir, the Allies have landed in Sicily. They are ready to march north. Intelligence expects them to strike Naples. They will try to intercept us here.
The man straightened slowly, unhurried, pale blue eyes, calm as stone. Dr. Klaus Reiter, Oberfuhrer of the SS, Ahnenerbe's thaumaturgical division, rank of a senior colonel, though he looked nothing like one. In his rolled-up white sleeves and khakis, he could have passed for an archaeologist on a dig, not a commander.
Come,
Ryder said softly, gesturing him to the table. He rested his hand on a folder of notes, voice carrying a quiet assurance that chilled more than a shout ever could.
You know the old fairy story. Beauty and the Beast, a cursed prince, a mirror that revealed truth. Minor nobles from northern France. Their estate records from the 1700s list a Gothic mirror in a Venetian frame. Curious, no?
He tapped the penciled note.
When the revolution came, they fled south through Savoy. In letters, they bragged about a glass touched by heaven or hell. In plain terms, they used its legend to buy their freedom. A banker in Turin accepted it as collateral, not realizing what he held.
Ryder's lips curved faintly, though his eyes did not.
From there, it passed into the Bourbon collections in Naples. Those collectors gathered hundreds of refugee treasures, reliquaries, icons, even furniture. The 1820s inventory lists a Venetian mirror in perfect condition. Impossible, of course. Venetian glass clouds within decades. This one does not.
He gestured at the walls around them.
And here it remains, misfiled, misnamed, unrecognized.
Closing the folder, he spoke more quietly still.
The tale of the beast may be propaganda. A noble whose non-natural strength could not be explained, or a rare occurrence of entropic resonance. It is unclear. What is of relevance to us is the reality of the mirror. It was a tool, the last true treasure bartered away for escape.
He straightened, voice calm as ice.
And now we shall reclaim it.
The junior officer shifted uneasily.
Do we have it yet, sir?
Not yet.
Ryder glanced at another table stacked high with gilt-framed mirrors as aides brought more.
Aristocrats traded away half of Europe's looking glasses for their lives. They blur together.
Then how will we know?
Ryder's expression did not change.
By its emissions, the one that bleeds resonance bands, curse, and elevation. The others...
He flicked his fingers dismissively.
...are only glass.
The Liaison. Pestum, mainland Italy, late September. The air was mildly warm, and scattered clouds made it a pleasant day in contrast to the columns of smoke that browned the air from air bombings. Military tents filled olive orchards and farms. Inside the command tent, maps and communiques littered a long oak table where generals and staff officers leaned in, weary-eyed but restless. A clerk entered, announced in clipped tones,
Dr. Alessandro Conti, liaison to the Allied Command.
A short, spare man in a rumpled linen suit stepped forward. His dark hair was graying at the temples, his spectacles smudged from the road. He bowed slightly, clutching a folder to his chest.
Generals, forgive my intrusion. The front moves swiftly, but the enemy moves swifter still, in matters that cannot be measured in ground gained.
Patton snorted, folding his arms.
Doctor, this is about statues. I haven't time for sermons. We're fighting a war.
Conti drew himself taller, his voice taking on the cadence of a cathedral nave.
And yet, it is precisely because you are fighting a war that I must speak. These treasures, they are the heart of Italy, nay, its very soul. They are the birthright of unborn generations, to know who they are and whose they come from. The legacy, the very foundations their ancestors laid for them. You Americans, you revere your Constitution, your David Rebel, your Mount Vernon. For us, it is Michelangelo, Caravaggio, the Fernis Hercules. As these are stolen or destroyed, it is as though fire is set to your own Declaration of Independence.
He leaned closer, eyes flashing, his accent sharpening his words.
And more than this, God Himself commanded us to honor our mothers and fathers. In saving these works, you honor not only Italy living, but her esteemed dead. To preserve what they built for us is among the highest acts of obedience.
Silence held for a beat. Even Patton's jaw worked a wad of Beeman gum thoughtfully. Finally, Alexander cleared his throat.
Suppose we listen. What do you want?
The Germans are emptying Naples even now. They create masterpieces like coal, smashing what does not feed. Among them are works irreplaceable, the Fernis Bull, the mosaics of Pompeii, entire centuries of memory. If Naples is gutted, it is not only Italy who loses, but Christendom itself.
He spread his hands, knuckles whitening on the folder.
Send men ahead. Stop them, stall them if you must, until your divisions can secure the city. I beg you.
Patton grumbled.
We've got armies to feed and hills to climb, Doctor. We can't throw good men after marbles.
Clark leaned back in his chair, thoughtful.
Perhaps not armies, but a small detachment, trained and quick, might buy us time. Who's fit for something like this?
The staff traded looks. One colonel cleared his throat and opened a dossier.
There is one candidate. Captain Giovanni Giuseppe Zimmerman, listed on our rolls as John Joseph Zimmerman, born in the Italian Alps, fought in the Great War on the White Front, where he earned the Italian Gold Medal of Military Valor, later immigrated to New York, naturalized, studied engineering, speaks Italian, German, English, and his Alpine dialect. His squad is tight-knit, proven under fire, engineers, but handy in a fight. They've scouted paths, built bridges under fire, and cleared minefields with their bare hands. If anyone can cut through enemy lines to Naples, it's them.
Patton arched a brow.
An Italian fighting for us?
An American now, sir, but he knows this land, its hills, its tongue, its soul. And after hearing Dr. Conti's words, I dare say he knows better than most what this objective means.
Alexander drummed his fingers on the map.
Very well. We'll send Zimmerman and his men ahead. A suicide mission, perhaps, but one worth the risk.
Conti bowed, his voice thick with gratitude.
Then history will remember you, not only as conquerors, but as guardians.
New mission orders. Ray lay stiff as a board across John's hands, while the captain bench-pressed him like a barbell. The men loitered around, some laughing. Nick crouched at John's side, red hair sticking up as he counted off each rep.
9, 10.
Ray craned his head from his precarious perch.
I notice you do this more than most combat engineers.
John pressed slower now, sweat trickling down into his hair. His voice came strained but steady.
I was about your age when I served in the Great War.
Come on, Cap, 12.
Nick urged. John's arms quivered. Age and weeks of fighting had left him tired. He locked out one last rep, then tipped Ray safely to his feet. Cigarettes changed hands among the onlookers. John sat up, wiping his brow with the back of his arm.
We were scaling a cliff,
he said quietly.
One of the anchors snapped. I tried to hold the line, but I wasn't strong enough. I couldn't make myself look down after he fell.
He drew a long breath, squared his shoulders.
I stay strong for my boys.
Ray's expression sobered, but John's weathered face broke into a grin, crow's feet crinkling.
And also, so I can toss you around like a sack of potatoes.
Ray chuckled, relief softening the moment. Ever since he was drafted, Ray had shadowed John like a pup. His mother never said why his father left, dead in the Great War, a one-night serviceman, or just a drunk who ran. Ray had carried the weight of being the man of the house for as long as he remembered. Now here was a man who cared, who protected. Being near John was like drinking water after never knowing you were dying of thirst. The others felt it too, in a war where nothing was certain. The only sure thing was their captain and their loyalty to each other. Nick plopped down with his sketchbook, finishing a caricature of a squad mate sprinting over Jerry helmets like a sheepdog on ewes. He shaded quick, signed with a flourish, and handed it over. The soldier laughed, eyes bright.
Holy mackerel, you're good. I can't even draw a stick figure.
Nick forced a grin. He was sick of hearing the last part. Larry sat in the shade of a nearby canopy. Another captain crouched beside him with a dead metal detector in hand. They'd needed it as they pressed further inland, pushing the Germans out one strong hold after another. And now it refused to spark back to life. Larry listened, nodding as the officer listed their failed attempts. Finally, he patted the casing with a confident smile.
Not to worry, sir. I'll have the patient back on its feet in no time.
He meant it, too. Nothing pleased him more than coaxing dead machines into breathing again. But as the captain left, Larry let out a quiet sigh. Being everyone's miracle mechanic was exhausting. He had hoped to spend this rare lull joking with his squad, not elbow-deep in wires. Still, mine detection took precedence over camaraderie. Lives depended on it. It was then a colonel approached. One of the soldiers spotted him first and barked,
"Attention!"
Cigarettes, cards, and dice vanished into pockets as men snapped upright. The colonel, brisk in his stride, waved them down.
At ease.
The camp eased back into motion, though quieter now. John stepped forward, sleeves rolled, shirt sweat darkened. They saluted.
Colonel?
Captain, I'd have summoned you to HQ, but this can't wait.
What's the situation?
The Germans are stripping Naples bare, archaeological museum mostly. Citizens friendly to us are begging we intervene. Call it saving the soul of Italy.
His mouth curled, more annoyance than reverence.
Truth is, our main force can't reach the city in time. The Germans and their Italian partners are dug in. No chance of taking ground. So command has agreed to send you and a handful of men. Suicide work for chunks of marble, if you ask me.
John's jaw tightened, but he only nodded.
When do we leave?
That caught the colonel, a flicker of surprise.
They told me you'd be sympathetic.
He exhaled through his nose.
You won't be hauling statues out of there, Zimmerman. Think reconnaissance first. Learn what's taken, where it's headed. That'll help us recover later.
Understood. How many men?
The colonel's eyes hardened.
No more than 8. Small, quick. And Captain, don't let them even know you're there. If you survive, I'll see you wear Oakleys before this war is out.
John's brows shot up.
It would be an honor, sir.
They saluted. The colonel strode off, his boots clattering down the stone corridor. For an Italian immigrant to America, getting a rank in the military had been a zero possibility, especially due to the prejudices towards the flood of Italians that had sought refuge after the Great War. His college education had made it possible in the Corps of Engineers. His age and experience had immediately ranked him to captain, and now they were offering him the rank of major. For a moment, John let the laughter and idle noise of his men wash over him. Then he turned, squared his shoulders, and barked,
"Attention! Gather in!"
The squad scrambled to their feet and lined up, dust motes catching the afternoon light. John stood with hands clasped behind his back.
"Soldiers, we've been given a special mission. We're to move behind enemy lines on foot, north to Naples. The Nazis are looting and destroying Italy's treasures. Her history, her identity. Our task is to watch, record, install what we can so these artifacts can be recovered later. Make no mistake, it's dangerous work, and you will not be compelled. I need 6 volunteers."
The street fell silent. Men glanced at each other, waiting, measuring. Then Ray stepped forward. Larry followed, then Nick, then 2 more, Corporal Tommy Hale and Private Sammy Ortiz. John let the silence linger before nodding.
"Some of you know this is my birth country. I've given my heart to America, but Italy is still my mother. I feel her plight, and I thank you for standing with me to defend what isn't even your own. We meet at HQ and depart at 1700. Dismissed!"
The squad broke into murmurs as John's chosen men drifted closer. He dropped his voice.
We travel light. Rations, ammo, water. Anything that rattles gets left behind. That means you, Larry.
Larry bristled, hugging his satchel.
"Sir, some of this could save our hides."
John reached out and rattled the bag. Tools clanged like cutlery in a drawer.
That's what you sound like with every step. Keep what you can carry silent. The rest stays here.
The long bike ride to Naples. The moon was thin, a sickle cutting through clouds, just enough to silver the dirt track. The squad swiftly pedaled in silence, tires crunching over gravel, every squeak or rattle breaking the silence in a disconcerting way. John rode ahead, tall frame bent low. When the rumble of engines reached his ears, he raised a fist. Instantly the line broke, bikes dragged into the brush, men flattening behind a stone wall. 3 German trucks groaned past, headlights hooded, voices carried. A curse, a laugh, the clink of bottles, the stink of diesel and sweat rolled over them. Ray held his breath, heart hammering, while Nick whispered under it,
"If the crowds don't hang us, saddle sores will."
Larry elbowed him.
"Shut it."
The trucks faded, and John's hand motioned them forward again. They pedaled on through vineyards and groves until the sky bled gray at the edges. They wore civilian clothing, their guns concealed in sacks, and they had appropriated bicycles from Salerno to hasten their trip. By dawn, their legs were rubber. Cicadas whined in the heat, louder than the rattle of chains. Dust clung to their faces, streaked in sweat. John steered them off the path into a grove of olives, branches low and shadows thick.
"Off the road now,"
he panted. Bikes were stashed under trees. The men collapsed at once, groaning, stretching sore muscles. Nick sprawled flat, hat over his eyes. Larry leaned against a trunk, already asleep. John stayed upright.
"Ray, you've got first watch."
Ray rubbed his gritty eyes and nodded, rifle across his knees. The others went slack almost immediately, sleep claiming them. After passing through hills, valleys, and canyons, the mountains gave way to open plains leading to Naples, stone walls hemming in olive trees and tomatoes heavy on the vine. By then, the men were hungry enough to chew their own boots. An old woman appeared on the path ahead, squat and broad-hipped, apron dusted with flour, a kerchief tied over her hair. She stopped dead when she saw them, squinting like an owl at the sun. John coasted to a stop, laid down the bike, and stepped forward, hands open, speaking quick Italian. She barked a question. He answered with a bow of his head, then reached into his pack. A pack of American cigarettes came out, half crushed but intact. Her eyes flicked to it, then back to John. She snatched it, stuffed it into her apron, and beckoned them down toward her farmhouse. Inside, she gave them bread, cheese, and a tin cup, each of watered wine. Her grandkids peeked from behind a curtain, eyeing the Americans in wonder. John casually glanced at his mates, and without trying to draw attention, joined the kids in the next room. He spoke animatedly to them in their tongue. John suddenly crouched, motioning them closer. He rifled his coat pocket, tugged out spare buttons and a bit of twine. With a flourish, he strung together a makeshift marionette, button head, chest, hands, and feet, and waggled it to life. The children burst into laughter as he gave it a deep, operatic voice, stomping like a soldier, then squeaked falsetto as it collapsed dramatically on the floor. He had them shrieking, clapping, tugging at his sleeves for more. Ray sidled into the doorway, watching with an ache that wasn't hunger. For a moment, John looked like another man entirely. The playful, curious soul Ray had glimpsed once back in Africa, sharing chocolate with children. A fatherly warmth Ray had never known. John was protective of his boys, but this was an entirely different level. Ray took a tentative step forward, crouching slightly as if to share the moment, but John sensed him there. Just as quickly as it came, the puppet clattered lifeless on the floor. John rose, dusting his hands, mask of command settling back across his face.
All right, men,
he said briskly.
We've imposed long enough. Thank the Signora.
The children's laughter faded into whispers as John shouldered his pack. Ray lingered a second longer, eyes on the abandoned button puppet, before following the others out into the sun. Thermic resonance. The Naples Museum emptied by the day as crates rolled out its doors and troops poured into the city. Dust hung in the air like smoke. The archive smelled of stone and mildew. Crates lined the walls, tables gleamed with bronzes and mirror. Meanwhile, in the central gallery, a single monster refused to be boxed. Chains clanged from block and tackle rigs, bolted to the ceiling. Sweat-slicked laborers heaved at the ropes, curses rising with every groan of hemp and marble. The Farnese bull towered over them, Dursey's twisted agony, the sun's merciless grip, the bull forever mid-charge. Now new ropes bit into its flanks as Nazi hands reenacted the myth they stole.
Careful,
a foreman barked as the sculpture lurched another inch. Stone rasped on wood, sparks spat from iron rollers. Dursey's marble eyes seemed to follow the men as they dragged her frozen fate across the floor. From the hall, Dr. Ryder watched the spectacle. The symmetry wasn't lost on him, an old legend of vengeance replayed by new conquerors.
History resists,
he murmured, almost with respect, and turned back to his work. Compared to that titanic effort, the smaller treasures on the tables seemed like trinkets. Yet Ryder knew the true prize might not be the largest or heaviest object, but the one that burned brightest when the fog finally rolled. Dr. Ryder oversaw it all with the precision of a conductor arranging his orchestra. 2 technicians wheeled in a steel canister on a dolly, hoses coiled like serpents. The stencil on its side read, Ryder Thermic Suspension. The junior officer beside him cleared his throat.
Herr Oberfuhrer, if I may, what exactly are we about to see?
Ryder did not look at him. His eyes stayed on the mirrors.
You have studied physics, yeah?
Enough, sir. Electrons, protons, radiation.
Good.
His voice was patient, almost professorial.
Then imagine another particle, subatomic, invisible, indifferent to our machines. Thermotrons. The carriers of what old men call wonder.
The officer frowned.
And the fog?
Ryder gestured toward the canister.
A suspension of carbon dioxide laced with metallic salts. In the presence of thermic resonance, the particles of the fog are agitated. They leap states and emit visible light, just as sodium burns yellow in a flame test. To the untrained eye, it will look like sparks in mist.
Does it have different colors?
Constructive resonance, CR, produces bands in the blue, white, and yellow. Entropic resonance, ER, red, green, violet.
His mouth curved in the faintest suggestion of a smile.
Archaic scholars called it good and evil magic, but there is no such thing, Lieutenant. Nature has no morality or no properties.
The junior officer nodded, still watching the row of mirrors.
So, once we vent the suspension?
Ryder clasped his hands behind his back.
Patience, Lieutenant. The fog must be deployed under controlled conditions. We will not waste it until the entire archive is sealed and the troops outside are posted. Only then can we be certain of isolating the strongest resonance.
He stepped closer to the mirrors, his reflection fracturing into half a dozen ghostly doubles staring back at him.
Until then, catalog everything. Every reliquary, every icon, every shard of glass. When the fog rolls in, I want no doubt as to what we are looking at.
The officer scribbled in his notebook, while technicians measured walls and taped seams in preparation. Ryder's voice dropped to a near whisper, meant only for himself.
When the chamber is ready, the truth will reveal itself.